Movie camera, welcome to Brainrot, Echoes, where the echoes of forgotten truths, ideas, and memories are awakened. We tell the stories you've never heard, uncover hidden shadows, and push the limits of imagination. Milky Way Brainrot, Echoes, when the final echo finally finds someone who listens. Backend index pointing right, don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell to join us on every journey. Chapter 1. The First Echo. A journey doesn't begin with the first step. It begins with a call no one remembers hearing. Originem still breathed. Born again and again from the fabric of imagination, the planet had found its own rhythm. No rulers, no ancient memories, only a storyteller to keep the heartbeat going. At the planet's core, Orin lived, a silent spark, nameless, powerless. He was the one who carried the tale forward. And in a world held together by stories, he was the most important child no one praised. On the 103rd dawn, since Obliv had folded into the deep, Orin heard something new. An echo. From nowhere. Wordless. Nameless. Just the faint pull of something. Someone inviting him beyond the center. He rose, the unfinished book still in his hand. So many blank pages. So much left untold. And that call, soft but steady, thrummed beneath his every step. As he left Originim's core, he glanced back. The planet kept living, growing, singing. No voice called him away. But everyone knew, if Orin doesn't go, the story ends here. He crossed the dream grass plains, once a scar left by Obliv, now blooming with plants shaped like letters. The grass didn't speak with sound. It whispered by bowing. And as Orin walked by, the breeze carried their quiet blessing. Go, storyteller. A place without a name is waiting for your words. The echo grew clearer. Not loud, not urgent, but insistent, like a single note pressed again and again in a forgotten symphony. He reached the hollow moment, the place where a memory being's heart and mind had once dissolved into nothing. Here the ground mirrored thoughts. Not his, but those of the ones who had once stood, lived, and dreamed here. Orin knelt, touched the earth. Cold, but beneath the surface a faint tremor, as if someone had wept and their sorrow hadn't yet faded. He didn't ask. He didn't wait. He simply knew. Every storyteller must pass through the place no one warns about. At last, he reached the edge of Originem. Not the edge of land, but the edge of stories. Beyond this, no shapes, no horizon. Only a gray light, where ideas waited to be born. The wind here didn't push, it questioned. If you go, who will remember what you were? Orin answered, without pause. I don't need to be remembered, just the story. And he stepped forward, into the place without form, without weight, without feelings that could be named. Only the first echo, closer now. In that space, the lights weren't stars or data points. They were unfinished memories. A song left incomplete. A conversation without an ending. A name called wrong so many times it forgot its own sound. Orin reached for a nearby light. And he heard, not with ears, but with every part of himself still waiting to be shaped. I was once someone. I once dreamed something. But no one kept telling my tale. Orin smiled, opened to the first blank page, and wrote down a name for that first echo. It might not be right. It wasn't fact. It was a chance for rebirth. You will be Lira, a sound no longer alone. And from that name, a new heartbeat pulsed through the gray. Not loud, not perfect, but real. Orin's journey had begun, not to repeat what was, but to name what had been left between two heartbeats. In a chapter, everything that fades waits for someone to give a name again. Not with proof, but with feeling. And with a blank page, Orin heard the first echo of the untold world. Chapter 2. The Valley of Silence. Silence isn't the absence of sound. It's the emptiness where memory finds no one to touch. After naming the first echo, Orin stepped deeper into the gray light. Here, the light didn't shine. It drifted, as if searching for something lost. He didn't know how long he walked. Time at the edge of Originem didn't move in cycles. It stretched and folded like the breath of a sleeping creature, not yet awake. And then he reached the valley. No name, no map, No mention in any tale. Only this, a place with no sound. It wasn't a peaceful quiet, not a sacred stillness. It was emptiness, absolute and raw, as if every word, every cry, every whisper had been pulled out of the air and left hanging unfinished. The wind passed, but made no sound. His footsteps touched the earth, but made no sound. Even his heartbeat seemed silent to his own ears. Oren sat down and tried to speak. No sound. No echo. Not even the faintest trace from his own throat. This place wasn't erased by obliv, he realized. It never had a listener to begin with. The Valley of Silence didn't lack sound. It lacked someone willing to hear. Without that, sound meant nothing. He pulled out his book. His hand shook, not from fear, but from standing before a space that gave nothing back. And he wrote, "There was once a first sound, but it was lost among louder voices. Too small, too soft. No one thought it worth hearing again." As his pen touched the final mark, he placed his palm on the ground. A faint tremor, not an earthquake, not a blast, a breath, the breath of a sound never spoken. He whispered without voice, "What are you?" And in that silence, a thin thread of sound rose, like the pulse of rock trying and failing to be heard. Oren understood. There was a kind of sound that lived where no one cared enough to listen. Not erased, just waiting for a storyteller quiet enough to feel it. He gave a name, Lyt, the first sound of the unnamed. At that moment, a ripple crossed the valley. Not huge, not fierce, but enough to make a stone shiver, crack softly, as if opening its mouth for the first time. He pressed his ear to that stone. What came wasn't speech, but a faint current, carrying a rhythm trapped too long. For notes, repeating over and over, asking, was I wrong for being too soft? Or was no one ever willing to pause and listen? Oren turned the page, wrote, "A sound doesn't need to be loud to exist. It needs someone willing to stay and hear it." And from those words, the first sound of the Valley of Silence was freed. Not bursting forth, not joyful, like a tear gently wiped away, wordless but seen. A breeze touched the back of his neck. This time it carried sound, so faint, like the lullaby of a dream no one had ever remembered. Oren smiled. No need to speak. The valley had begun to remember how. He rose. The book held a small new piece, not long, not grand. Just the first notes of a song once thought too small to matter. And as he left, the ground beneath his feet began to hum. Not because it was ordered to, but because it finally knew. Someone had truly listened. End of chapter. Some sounds are small, not from weakness, but because no one believed they deserved to be heard. And a storyteller at the right time. That's the first applause for a song left unfinished. Chapter 3. The Keeper of the I Am Between. Between what is real and what is made up lies a hollow where neither can prove itself. After freeing the valley's first sound, Oren journeyed east to where Originim's map fell apart. No one named this place, not from fear, but because no one dared to decide if it was real or just a forgotten line in a story left unfinished. Here, nature didn't know its own shape. The ground didn't know it was ground. Trees weren't sure they were trees. Light passed through, but cast no shadow. Everything waited for someone to give it meaning. Oren stepped into that hollow. Nothing visible, but he felt it, a gentle force, unseen, nudging him back. Not a wall, not a barrier, a hesitation in space itself. You can't go further until you know what you're walking through. The voice didn't speak aloud. It appeared in his thoughts. Neutral. No worms. No cold. No welcome. No threat. From a mist, a figure formed. No yender. No face. No light. No darkness. Just a shape, like a pause between two lines of a forgotten tale. I am the keeper of the in-between. Oren nodded. Between what and what? Between what once was and what should have been. Between proven memory and imagined truths not yet told right. I don't know if I'm real, but I've stood here since the story's heartbeat stopped. Oren stayed silent. This wasn't an enemy, not a listener, but a crossroad. Without passing here, his story would stall at the nameless edge. The keeper tilted its head. You hold the power to continue the tale, but tell it wrong, and you'll create false memory. and a false memory can be more dangerous than forgetting. Oren sat, set his book on his lap. He wrote, "Is there such thing as absolute truth, or only the stories most people agree on?" The keeper looked down, moved for the first time. Its hand had no fingers, just warped light like broken data. "You ask what I fear to answer." Oren kept writing. "If something once happened, but no one told it, is it still real?" The keeper stepped closer. Every footstep changed the ground's color, as if it reshaped itself to match the question. Asterisk, and Oren kept walking, into the formless space, into the place no one had ever dared to name. Each of his steps left no mark on stone or soil, but on the very things that had never been told. Ahead, within the gray glow, flickering points of light. Not stars, not data, just memories waiting for someone to call them back to life. And somewhere, a new echo began to rise. Not clear, not urgent, but enough for Oren to know. This journey had only just begun. Asterisk,